Hey, good morning, and welcome to episode 83 of Talking to Artists. Casual conversation where we talk to artists, art collectors, some art lovers, art galleries, to kind of get a better understanding of what goes on behind the curtains of being a professional artist and in the art world. So we try and talk about tips and business tricks that can help new artists or emerging artists, as well as share stories, which is what today's story is about how to transition from a full-time career in something completely different into being a full-time artist. So today we're going to be talking to Lisa Litowitz. So she is transitioning. She has an HBA from Ivey, spent a large part of her career in the fashion industry, and now is an artist. So that's always pretty exciting, and it's always great to see how people make that transition. Just a couple of really quick things. Just want to remind everybody, if you haven't been seeing all the posts on my Instagram as well as on the Art Alchemy Instagram, we are right in the midst of the Pie Art Squared show, so that's round in circles. We have 75 artists that are right now working on all their super cool art. So submissions are closed for new artists, but stay tuned for next year. I'll plan to do this annually. But for collectors, there's some really beautiful stuff happening, and I'm so excited to be able to, looks like hopefully have an opening at Art Alchemy on March 11th. The show is going to run from March 11th to the 20th, so right through Pie Art Squared Day. Online as well. So if you're not in Toronto, that's fine. You can still pick up some awesome pieces. The other cool thing is that I have a show right now at Noodle Gallery up in Alton Mills called Mirror Image, Sister Plus Sister. So this is kind of a reimagining of the family garden show that my sister Helen Utzel and I did in the summer at Leslie Grove Gallery. And so it's a beautiful piece. It's a great gallery. If you want to head up there to Alton Mills, there's fabulous snowshoeing and hiking in the area too. So anyway, that's all super exciting as well. So let me just get my glasses on and bring in Lisa. Let's see if I can, and where is she? There she is. And hopefully that will work. Okay, I think it is. Hey.
Hi there.
How are you?
Fine, how are you?
Good. Thank you for joining me. I should have actually said that my guest that was scheduled for today was not able to make it. So Lisa came on as of last night. I think I invited her. So thank you so much for being such a good sport about that. You've definitely been on my list. Yeah. Well, you've been on my list of people, but I hadn't actually quite reached out yet. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it'll be good. So I just basically gave a bit of an introduction. So it's always interesting for me because you and I we've done a number of shows together through North Toronto and the Leslie Grove, but I hadn't actually delved into your background, which makes me realize how much time you spend talking to people and not really answering some basic questions about, kind of their life and stuff. So I guess you have an HBA from Ivey, and then you spent most of your life in the fashion industry. So maybe you could talk a bit about that and how you ended up deciding to ditch all that and become a full-time artist.
Yeah, it's quite a different world. I went from Ivey into the fashion business in retail and spent over 30 years there. It was actually a dream career, really, because, I traveled the whole world. And I went to factories, I went to some fashion shows, but more really factories, and a lot of sample shopping around the world in Europe. And it was just a fantastic career.
Wow.
Huge responsibility. Like really what we do as buyers is we ran the business. We were each responsible for a sector of the business, whether that was cosmetics or luggage or handbags or footwear. And we were responsible to run that as a profit center. So really that's what I did. We had to do the forecasting, the buying, the finances, the marketing, the markdowns of inventory and inventory management, and then all the fun stuff too, designing new collections. So there's so many aspects of it that have been really helpful in the new art career.
And so what did you focus on in fashion? What was your kind of thing that you worked on?
You know what, I moved around a lot within the companies, but I spent a lot of time in ladies' accessories. So I did a lot with purses, which we call handbags, and jewelry, and scarves and hats and gloves and all those different
All the fun stuff.
yeah, and a lot of shoes, of course, love shoes,
Yeah.
and many years in ladies designer fashions as well. So every area, really, it was such a great career, and the business has changed so much. Buyers are doing everything now just from home, like everyone else, on Zoom, and they even,
Yeah.
talk to factories and negotiate prices on Zoom as well. So there's not much travel anymore, and I'm not sure that will come back the way it used to be. So.
Yeah, it's funny because, I also came from an industry where, it used to be very social and very personal and stuff like that. And, obviously I got out of doing executive level events, but there's a part of me that's kind of going, yeah, I think I kind of got the best of that industry. Like I got all the fun travel and the fun events and got to meet some amazing people. And so much of it's online now. It's not quite the same energy.
Exactly. It's a little different. And, travel will come back, of course, and some people have been traveling, but it's definitely different now. And to be honest, the digital revolution was really changing the job as well. Everything was reducing from the bricks and mortar business of retail into the digital channel. And, the role of the buyer was changing as well over the years. And I got older, like, listen, when a company is trying to attract a younger customer, like the 25 to 30-year-old young spending woman, they don't necessarily want a woman in her mid-50s choosing those fashions for her. So that's the harsh reality of ageism in fashion, which I was
and in marketing as well. Yeah.
Oh, is it in marketing as well? I don't know.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I mean, because the reality is that by the time consumers get to be our age, they've already kind of set what they want to buy and how they buy, and you're not going to change it's hard to change their products, right? So you really want young people who haven't quite formed their ideas or their brand kind of loyalties yet. And so it's one of the reasons that we went into doing executive level engagement, because most of those executives were our age. So you kind of had this sabbatical of like, I understand how to talk to them. I understand what's going on in their lives, which again, a lot of younger marketers didn't quite get, right? So
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's interesting because sorry?
And that's the fun thing about art, is that like all of a sudden I'm an emerging artist, and it doesn't really matter. And, it's really about your product and what you're making, and more than how you look or how you present yourself. So it's a wonderful, refreshing focus.
And so what was your first kind of, I guess, memory of art, or have you always liked to do art, or how did it come to be that you decided, yes, art's what I'm going to do full time?
Well, to be honest, I was always drawing and painting since I was little. And I know that sounds a little cliche, drawing since I was a little girl, but I was.
Well, a lot of people do.
I was taking art lessons all through high school, even through university, even at night. And during my career, I also took art and I painted once a week in the evenings, or depending on my schedule, maybe I could paint, Fridays. So I always kept it up, and I guess the dream was someday to be an artist, but I really never thought I could do it or would figure out how to try and make a living doing this. So that's what I'm trying to do now, is figure it all out and make it into a full-time career.
Yeah. Well, and I think sometimes it's also one of those things where I find sometimes big changes in lives can sometimes seem like they're really traumatic and horrible and terrible, and they take a long time to deal with the ego of it, but it opens up new opportunities. It sometimes forces your hand, right? Like, I don't know, like, so now you're a full-time artist, and maybe you wouldn't have been able to do that as easily if you're in the middle of a really career that gave you everything else you needed.
Exactly. And I did have one small foray into art that I always forget about. When my kids were really young, and literally my second was just born, I did take a break from the fashion business, and I opened an art school for kids.
Oh, cool.
It was called Annie's Art House, and some people might remember seeing that. It was up on Bathurst Street, and kind of did art for the whole community. And that was like my first test into entrepreneurship with art. And it was so crazy. It was 7 days a week. Like, what a labor of love. But it was a lot of fun. And I did that for about 5 years. So
a long time.
Yeah, it was a long time, and I had a whole staff of 9 people working for me, and it was a really interesting, fun business. But and then I went back into the fashion business because I missed that. So I did go back in for another 10 years, and here I am
Hmm.
again.
Everything must have, all the universe must have come together now. So it sounds like the cool thing though is like a lot of artists who have had a corporate career, but your corporate career specifically seems to have prepared you well for entrepreneurship, because it sounds like there's so much of your job that already was entrepreneurial in terms of having to do the marketing and the branding and the
Yes,
accounting and all that kind of stuff.
exactly. It was pretty much general management, general business management, and that's what I studied as well at school. And every aspect has come to help me. Like it's like the 4 P's of marketing: product, price, place, and promotion. And you
Yeah.
have to kind of dabble in all of them, and you may not be good, but you give it a shot. And I'm using all those same elements in this art career. Pricing, promotion, for sure. Social media. Oh my God, I didn't realize how much you have to spend on promotion, social media, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah, well, money and time, right? I think it's more for me. I find it's more the time sucker. Well, not, I shouldn't say time sucker because it's valuable to do and you have to do it. But, I know there's times when you're like, oh, I just don't have anything to post. I'm not feeling very inspirational. I don't feel like I have anything
I know.
interesting to share with the world, but you kind of have to find something, right?
And like, what's going on with Instagram in January? I don't know. It's like no one seems to be looking at any posts. I think everyone's trying to take a break because the amount of
Yeah.
likes and things that are going on is definitely a lot less, I notice. I mean, and my posts are maybe less interesting. I don't know, less exciting. There's no shows yet. You know.
I don't know. It's so hard to figure that out, though, isn't it? It's kind of like, because I try and look through, it's like, okay, you look through your analytics and you kind of see which posts gain people. And the ones that end up, that I feel like I spend time crafting them in shot and doing the reels and doing all the tags and everything. They're never the ones that seem to do as well. It's the ones I do off the cuff that are like, yeah, I decided to do this thing. And I don't know. It's interesting that it's an algorithm I personally have not been able to crack yet.
Yeah, and I haven't even. I really need to dive more into the analytics of my Instagram, and it's just so interesting what goes on. But you're right, you're kind of not in control. Like I do this great
Yeah.
post, great reel with music, and I spend so long working on it, and then it really doesn't do much. But it's
Yeah.
another
Well, it's
option.
interesting. Yeah. And I think obviously having that almost like the TikTok kind of environment seems to certainly help. But I'm not on TikTok, so
I
I
know.
can't say.
Well, you have to get someone younger to do it. So my daughter made me a TikTok account and she did a couple TikToks, but then she got really busy. So now I can't do anything else.
Yeah. I also kind of feel like I want it to be authentic. And so if it's not fabulous and slick, well, I'm not really fabulous and slick, so I just figure like I don't really want to kind of end up being into, oh, my career really is video editing and short movie production, and on the side I do some art.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely shorter time spans though, right? So you got to be fast
Yeah.
and say what you're going to say fast.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I certainly have found that. Yeah. So anyway, so one of the other things I wanted to kind of talk to you about is actually your art. So obviously it's like mine, lots of color, very bright, very optimistic, which I'm thinking that during the last couple of years, people have really been looking for.
Yes, I think it's definitely, what people say is how uplifting it is and how positive it makes them feel. And that's such great feedback because I can't help but paint with bright color. Even when I try and do more muted scenes, which I'm working on a more muted scene right now, honestly, the colors just keep coming out. And I don't even really plan them, to be honest. And if I do plan them, I change my plan. So
Mhm.
I just naturally pick a bunch of crazy colors, and I love multicolors. So the more the merrier, and
Yeah.
that's just the way it comes out of me. I can't even control it, and I'm trying to let those emotions carry me through the painting.
Yeah, I was going to say, why would you want to really control it? I mean, it's working for you. It makes you feel happy and makes other
Right.
people feel joyful too. So yeah, I think sometimes it's a mistake to try and I do this myself as well, is where you're trying to overanalyze. I should be doing that, or I should be doing it this way, or there should be a structure around something. And the reality is that it just doesn't seem to work that way. They get all tight and fussy.
Exactly. And you really have to put yourself into the painting. It is
Hmm.
a piece of you. And I think putting that emotion and that expression and what makes you happy, you're right. It definitely comes out to the customer, the viewer, and it makes it authentic.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So do you, I know this year's color is the Very Perry, which I'm personally pretty thrilled about because it's bright purple and it's fun and it's bright. Are you incorporating that into your work at all, or because you've got that kind of fashion history, or is there a part of your brain that kind of thinks about fashion and what's in fashion?
Absolutely. You know what? I definitely, I already have always loved periwinkle and that combination of blue and purple. And, you know, I do follow the Pantone colors as well as home decor. I love home decor as well. And I do uh, subconsciously, I think, incorporate it into my work. For
Yeah,
sure, you know, listen, if home decor trends aren't with bright colors, then I'm going to be a little off trend. But I do,
yeah,
you know, keep that in mind sometimes. You know, add a little touch of taupe for someone if they've got taupe, you know, in their living rooms or something. Just put a dab
yeah.
here to make sure it talks to everything else in their home.
Well, I do think sometimes it's a creative challenge. I know with last year's colors, with that acid yellow and the gray, they're not colors I would normally gravitate towards. They're cold colors. But there was a couple times I thought, I should really force myself to not always paint with warm jewel tones. And so it was an interesting exercise. And I'm like, yep, don't like it. But at least I felt like I went through the exercise.
No, I remember when you did something with silver and you were surprised, but it looked beautiful too, right? But it might have been a little off the warm colors.
Well, on the silver ones I did like, it took me a while. And that acid yellow, I still try and push myself because actually I do really like that acid yellow with a fluorescent pink. Like, I think those two really pop together. So I do sometimes use those. But as a main part of the painting, I'm not really a gray person. I'm not really a beige person. Those are my two colors that I really almost never incorporate.
I'm not beige. I can't wear it. It doesn't look good on me. You know, I
No.
don't like it, and I don't paint with it too much. Just it's necessary, but sometimes the dull colors do actually accent the bright neon. You know, they really. I love how it's all about what we used to call in fashion was adjacencies, like really colors that are adjacent to each other and things that are
Hmm.
adjacent to each other. That's what is so interesting. It's the mix and the complement, right? Complementary colors and
Yeah.
how that works. That fascinates
Oh,
me.
absolutely. I love that. Agree with you. I love that push pull of positive negative space. Or I actually do really like to work with complementary colors and mixing them because, obviously if you mix them, they become brown. So you don't want to them brown, but you want them beside each other so they vibrate.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think there's some intellectual challenges that way in terms of trying to figure out how to make that work and not get all muddy and ugly.
Exactly. Yeah, it's so
And
colors are so interesting.
yeah, do you have a favorite color or a favorite color combination?
Actually, it's so funny. That's my artist statement that I don't really have a favorite color. I love them all. But, you know, I don't know. I can't seem to paint without neon pink. Like, I have to have a little neon pink in there. And I was going to wear
Yeah.
neon pink today, but I didn't get it on. But I almost had my neon pink sweater on. So that's definitely a favorite. Um, but honestly, every color of the rainbow. I used to say my favorite color is rainbow. You know, it's love multicolors all together. Just makes me
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah, I do too, although I do find that a deep magenta or a deep turquoise and kind of right now I'm really into that fluorescent pinks as well, kind of seem to make their way into almost everything. And a cadmium yellow, I do
Mm.
love too.
Yeah,
It
I'm
kind of
not
goes with
so into
everything.
yellow, but I do try and use it here and there because it goes well with the pinks and purples. So
That's right. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, that's fun. That's a fun thing to do. Like, I mean, to play with those color wheel, basically the colors on the color wheel, I
Exactly.
guess. So the other thing I noticed is that, and this is that you seem to be very involved in a lot of organizations, like a volunteerism in terms of obviously the Artist Network, which thank you so much for all of your work you do with the Leslie Grove Gallery. And I guess you were just hanging a show yesterday, probably, which
Yes.
from what I can see looked pretty awesome. It's going to look good. And then also North Toronto Group of Artists, which we're also both part of, so that's kind of cool. So tell me how that fits into your kind of your business strategy.
You know what? I'll be honest. It was such a surprise to me. First of all, how generous and giving everybody in the art world is. it's definitely different from the fashion world that way. You know, instead
Mm-hmm.
of being competitive, it's a supportive community, which at first I found so exciting and shocking and everything else. And, you know, when I first joined the Artist Network, I mean, what a great thing to do when you're just starting out as an artist. You
Mm-hmm.
know, doing seminars, teaching you all about different things, you know, going to some openings and meeting other people, which we'll start to do again. And then doing that very first studio tour with North Toronto. Like just doing those little things are what actually helped launch the career. And I'm just so thankful. And then, you know, the best thing is on the Artist Network, you know, when you apply to be a member, they're asking you right away, what would you like to help with? And I thought, oh, I'd really like to help with the gallery. I think that would be so cool. I want to learn how to hang artwork properly and curate it. And that was my interest. And, you know, I started volunteering for that, and I love it now. I mean, we hang shows, as you know, about once a month, depending on the schedule, twice a month. And
Yeah.
I just enjoy it so much. I learn something new every day. And the team there is so great. And it's been a really good learning part of my my career, or the strategy, I should say. So that's been
Mm-hmm.
great. And then North Toronto, closer to home, our little neighborhood local art group. Um,
Yeah.
and just doing those studio tours and helping out. I volunteered as treasurer for the last few years, which I just was able to give over to someone who's actually an accountant now, which is great.
Woo! Yeah, that's unusual.
Which was great. But these things are so important to, you know, as you said, transitioning to a new career, getting into those community groups, those industry networks, whatever that may be. This is how you build yourself up, you learn, and it's so collaborative. I just can't say enough about how shocked and happy I am and how much it helps me.
Yeah, it's definitely a nice to do, and but I also think, you know, I get asked a lot too, like, you know, what can I do to kind of move my career forward? I'm like, I always think the first thing really is to give back to the community that you are looking to support you. You know, it's kind of not only like you're saying, do you meet lots of people, which means that your access to information and contact and shows and how to do things is so much greater. But I think it's a great learning opportunity where you can kind of hone your own skills that you can then apply to your own business, right?
Exactly. Yeah, the learning is great, and I just feel really good helping out and giving back, as you said, and it does pay it forward. You know, it's not like I'm looking for some kind of equalizer, but then you can reach out to other people and get help too, once you give it. And some interesting things have happened. You know, like a lot of just becoming friends with all different artists, and you know, we all talk to each other and help each other. And you know, I just got off the phone a second ago talking to an artist about. That's why I was a couple minutes late. About something somewhere, and I had just done it and rolled up my work in a tube. And then another artist had called me a few days ago. Can you help? You know, give me a bit of a critique on a new painting. So it's just amazing helping each other.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it helps protect you in terms of, you know, there's obviously a lot of art scams that go around all the time. I mean, some of them are so obvious, like, I love your recent artwork, send me a list of everything. And, you know, I will send my shipper for you, but they're becoming a bit more sophisticated now too, right? So I find even some of those ones where posting, it's kind of like, yeah, this is a scam. I've just spent like 15 minutes on Instagram talking to this person, and then it ended up being a scam, right? So I think some of that shared knowledge too is
Yeah.
helpful. And I had someone reach out to me recently, and it was one of the classic, you know, I saw my wife looking at your art and I didn't want her to be a surprise and all that kind of stuff. And she's like, what do you think? And I'm like, yeah, no. But she was new to the industry, so she hadn't come across this same scam 50 times before, like kind of, you know, we all have.
Yes,
So
exactly. Yeah, and
I think that's
Instagram.
interesting. Yeah, I'm always kind of curious about the scams, though. You know, like it's kind of just from a point of view, it's like it feels to me like there would be a lot of other industries that would be more profitable to scam than artists. I
I
don't know.
know. I don't even understand. You're right. Like, will you ship the work to Newfoundland and then I'll send you a check? And, you know, what are they going to do with my little painting? Like, really? You know, if I do
I
ship.
know, that's what I think too. Like, how much are they gonna like? What, are they gonna sell it for like $50 or something? I mean, that's exactly what I think too. Like, I don't know.
I
Maybe I'll
know.
have to interview one of those interviews. If you're out there, art scammers, feel free to call me and be my guest and tell me how this is supposed to work because it doesn't make sense.
Exactly. Maybe it would help you, and they're going to advertise it. I don't know.
Yeah,
Infamy.
I don't know.
A good thing.
I guess, yeah. So what's next on your career? Obviously, we were doing shows, not doing shows anymore, assuming you're selling online. I noticed you're part of Hello Art, which I guess is an online sales gallery. I don't know which online gallery. I'm not sure what you call it, a sales platform.
They have an online platform, but their main thing before the pandemic and still is that they place your art in restaurants and service businesses. So they had mostly been closed down. So I just got a piece of art now in a really cool coffee shop, which is nice, and it brightens it up for them, and just
Yeah.
gets your name out there. All these little things. It's almost like guerrilla marketing, like just trying to sneak yourself into all these aspects. And we also have our work up in the real estate office at thank you to Bosley for supporting the North
Yeah.
Toronto arts. All
Yeah,
these
that's
little,
pretty cool.
yeah, all these little things. I guess they all add up to getting your name out there. And you do have to pick and choose your spots, though, because I'm finding my personality is I like to say yes to everything. And at some
Yeah.
point, I need to learn to be a little more selective and curate my own, branded strategy, which I need to work on more this year, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. I do think though, I did the same thing when I was first starting out. It was kind of like just say yes to everything. That's pretty much my philosophy,
Yes.
because I think that sometimes things that don't seem like they're going to be a good opportunity and ended up having these somehow serendipitous connections or things that end up working out really well. And I do think sometimes artists are a little bit overly cautious about where they put their art or what they do with it.
Hmm.
And I sometimes think that hinders just getting the name out there, like, and I don't think I totally agree with that, like you can't do everything just for exposure. You have to strategically figure out what is that exposure going to do for you? Are you going to get something back from it? Because that's kind of the classic, right? Donate this piece of art and it'll give you exposure,
Right.
which is very
Exactly.
different from put this piece of art on my wall for, I don't know, a month. I'd rather store it on someone else's wall than my own.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you're right. All those things are interesting. And I also donate a lot of art to charity, both for the exposure and because I work on a lot of fundraising for these charities too. So I
Yeah.
do like to try and give back in that way as well. And yeah, just trying to pick my spots now. And you're right. Even like the next step this year for me would be definitely trying to figure out maybe what Toronto gallery would be good for me to be in, good for them, good for me, and maybe pick a Toronto gallery this year where I can have a good marriage.
Yeah. And you're with Cloud Gallery, I think, right now, right? Are you?
Yes, I just started with them in the fall, so really they just have a few paintings and we're testing things out, and I hope to give them another new batch in the spring and learn about
Nice.
arrangement. They're wonderful people, and it's such a beautiful gallery. I'm really proud to be there. And yeah, I want to have a similar type of experience in Toronto. And then, eventually I'd want to be in, some galleries in other major cities. And it's interesting how to combine that with your own selling, though, and I'm working on my website now to try and get that into a transactional functional website. So that's on the plate now as well. My website's closed, if anybody's wondering. It's under construction.
That was my question because I had your website on my thing and I'm like, okay, is it just my computer? Because I'm at the cottage, so sometimes I get weird.
It's gone. It's gone.
Okay.
On a new one. So, and actually, it's the Ontario government helps with that, right? They've got Digital Main Street helping artists and other, small business owners to get themselves to go digital. So they're helping to build the website and then train me how to, keep it updated and everything. So it's going to be better than my last one.
So is that a government program that you're doing?
Mm-hmm. It's
So maybe
called,
talk a bit about that. I think that'd be interesting to know more about.
yeah, absolutely. It's called Digital Main Street, and I believe it's provincially funded by the Ontario government. I hope I'm not saying that wrong. It might be municipal, but I'm pretty sure it's Ontario. And the program is also called Shop Here, I think, and it comes up on Instagram all the time. And they actually reached out to me and said, would you like us to build a website for you? And I said, I do have a website, which my daughter built, and it's very nice, but it wasn't transactional, and I don't think it's going to take me where I need to go in the future. And really, you do need to be selling online. There's no question about that. Not just showing a few pretty pictures. So that is the goal now. And I think if you want a very basic site, they'll even pay for it for you for 6 months or a year. I'm going to have mine a little more customized, so I may have to pay a small monthly fee to maintain that, the domain and the platform. And you can pick, they have several platforms to choose. You know, you can go on Square or Shopify, depending on the volume of business you think you're going to do.
Right. And will that facilitate things like prints and printmaking and stuff as well? Print on demand?
I don't know. I'm sure they can help me hook it up to a print on demand service. I'm not even there yet because I haven't strategically decided if I'm going to do it or not. I don't know about that.
And do you just, I'm asking this because it's just curious because of your business background, do you actually create a strategy for yourself every year?
I have been, yes, outlining a plan. And to be honest, it's been more of a marketing calendar, a monthly plan. But I do have sort of goals, and I do have like a bit of a time action calendar, as we used to like call it, to make a work back schedule for myself for every show, to make sure I'm keeping up. I have to set some internal deadlines, which I have a big deadline right now. Because I'm going to be doing an online show with artwork.ca. I don't know if you know that site.
Yeah, it's the virtual, they do a virtual gallery, right? It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's an online site. Just a beautiful look to it and feel, very elegant, I think. And the women that run it are lovely. And Alessia was a curator and an art consultant. And so I have a solo show going up with them in a couple weeks. So I'm trying to finish.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. See, because strategically knew that I have nothing going on in February. Oh, I seem to have frozen. Uh-oh, I don't know if you can see me.
I can hear you. I can hear you. I just can't. You've frozen. It's always, of course, yeah, you're coming back.
Okay, good. Yeah, I set myself up for this project for February. Gone again, I see, but the voice continues, I suppose.
Yes.
And platform, and sorry about that. I guess my Wi-Fi is going in and out. It was very strong.
We lost you
before.
But that's why I always use my phone data because it doesn't bounce in back and forth. But yeah, so you were talking about kind of having different things in the calendar, which I always so try and do as well. This year I got totally screwed up though, because 2 shows of the 3 that are happening in April now for me were moved from last year. So all of a sudden I have the Artist Project and Chicago and Washington, D.C. like 1 week after another. I'm like, holy shit. So talk about a work back schedule.
Yeah. Well, that is the trick of planning. It is so hard to plan, and there's so many shows in May and June and all through September. I'm trying to plan it out, so I'm not.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know April's crazy, June's crazy, September's crazy. But in sort of my right now, I think.
Exactly.
But, I mean, it's good. The part is, although it's crazy, it's also nice to actually be able to think about doing in-person shows again, because I think that you're right in that the online is definitely critical. You need to be selling online. That's the way people are comfortable buying now. But there's nothing better than making that personal connection and having meet the art collectors, meet the people who love the work, have them meet you as an artist. That really helps.
Oh yeah, I love that. I love the personal aspect of it. And that's why I'm willing to do outdoor fairs and shows like yourself. I think it's crucial, and I usually do very well at them because I love dealing with people and trying to get them what they want. So love it. And I plan on doing like 6 to 10 shows. We'll see what I get into.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because be careful what you wish for. Every year I kind of say, I'm going to do fewer shows. I'm going to be really strategic. I'm going to think about it. And at the end of the year, I still end up doing between 20 and 25 shows a year. And I
Oh
have for
my God. Wow.
12, 13 years. Like, so I'm not very good at that, obviously.
Oh my God. You're really okay. Well, that's how you build your business. I know now. I thought 7 to 10 would be good.
I mean, it probably is. I mean, I think part of it too is this is also including some group shows, which are just like, you know, around with the Artist Network that are nice to be part of and nice to support. I do think that for me, I really try and strategically think about each show and what am I going to try and strategically do there? Am I creating a body of work there? Am I building my database, which is of course so critical? How many more people am I able to touch or meet? And does this show put me in contact with a completely different market that none of the other shows do?
Yes, that's a great way to
Yeah.
do it. I agree with that. And I'm trying to do shows in different places. You're right, to get exposure
Yeah.
up. And is it the right demographic? And will they, like this style of art and what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. Well, it's something like, for example, it's one of the reasons I do the one of a kind because it tends to be a bit of a different audience than the Artist Project and the other kind of art shows and stuff. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's good for building. Anyway, good for connecting. I don't know. I like it too. I'm like you. I had a gallery approach me and they said, well, we'd love to represent you, but we don't really want you to do art fairs and stuff anymore. And I'm like, yeah, but I kind of love that. Like it kind of feeds my soul. So I think I'm going to stay with
Oh,
talking to
wow.
people.
I didn't know if the galleries allow that or not, so I haven't gotten there yet. So we'll see if that's
I
okay.
think a lot of them do. I think most of them do. I think it's a different market too. I don't think galleries have the ability to require that exclusivity
Hmm.
because it's so difficult. There's so many other places to buy and to see art, right? And the consumer is wanting that as well. So that's a whole other interesting thing.
Exactly.
So I'm just gonna see what else I had. Yeah, so kind of what is your, like you talked about doing a lot of travel, which of course you haven't been able to do, like we have not been able to do as part of your job. Is that also kind of part of your inspiration, or was that just a happy side effect of what the job was?
Definitely, I took so many hundreds and thousands of pictures on my travels, and I have done a lot of travel, both personal and professional. It did drive my art, and that's when I had a big change in my art during the pandemic because I used to paint from photographs, and I spent 20 years oil painting landscapes and other scenes from photographs, trying to represent them, very closely and realistically. And when the travel kind of all shut down, and I haven't been on an airplane for 2 years, now I'm just painting without photographs. And that's why everything looks so different. It's very fantasy, it's very dreamy because it's not real. It's just from my imagination.
Which is kind of more fun anyway, isn't it?
It is. I love it. And
Yeah.
when I asked one of my, a mentor of mine, should I do the realistic, stuff with my photographs, or should I do this fantasy, imaginative, abstract landscapes? And she said, well, what makes you happier? What do you want to do? And what do you want to see?
Yeah.
And that was my answer right there. So I really love doing this abstracted stuff.
Yeah, I did. I went through that same sort of thing where you feel somehow as if you're going to paint or paint abstract or paint landscapes, you should do it realistically. And I used to do really close-ups of flowers because they were like, of course, bright colors. And then one day I'm kind of like, why am I stressing myself out so much to make it look exactly the same as the photograph when I have the photograph that I've taken, so it's my piece of art anyway, right? So I'm like, yeah, kind of done with that. Because I had this whole concept of doing triptychs where you'd have the photograph and then the realistic painting of the photograph and then the abstracted version of the photograph of the painting. And
Cool.
at the end of the day, I'm kind of like, yeah, I'm not really interested in the first two. I just really want to do the last one. So that show never really came to fruition because it was just 2/3 of it was boring.
Right. That was your answer. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other part is that I still get asked for commissions, and people want, house portraits and people portraits and pets and all kinds of things that are realistic. So I do them from time to time because they can sustain me through slow months, I guess. But
Mhm.
I'm trying to limit those very much.
Well, I think it always takes a while to bring your audience along with you. Like as an artist, you're at the beginning of what your ideas are. Sometimes it's even to the point of like, oh, I did that one 8 months ago. It's like an old painting. And meanwhile, it's like nobody's seen it because it's been in my basement for 2 years. But also it takes collectors a bit longer, I think, to sort of wrap their head around your new style or your new colors or things too. So you kind of have to, I don't know, give them a bit of time.
Yeah. That's exactly right. People, when we do have those shows, like even our studio tours in the neighborhood, people always gravitate to the older work. It's so interesting. And the new stuff, they're not quite sure about it, right? They're just still thinking
Yeah.
it takes time.
Well, I think also if it's a numbers game, so the reality is that more people are going to buy work that's more realistic. It's just more comfortable, and they're more easily able to assess whether or not the art is good or not. And once you get, the more and more abstract you get, I think the smaller the market is, which I think is also important to understand when you're marketing. And it's also important to understand why some shows don't work for you, or why you can have some people that are like, oh my God, I can't believe people would ever buy that, put that in their house. And you're like, well, that's your opinion, but there are people that do, remarkably.
Yeah, I never thought of it that way. That's really interesting because I feel like abstract is such a major trend. It's so important in decor, and it's so it can be so much more contemporary. So,
Hmm.
but you're right. That's why I'm trying to kind of bridge a traditional genre, which is landscapes, with a new contemporary way of looking at it to try
Yeah,
and bridge those two worlds.
yeah. I think that makes sense. Yeah. And I think, the reality too is that I'm often amazed that more people don't actually have original art in their house to begin with. So I think that's the other thing too. I would love to have the stats on that. When you see these houses that are so gorgeous and they're so beautifully planned and they're so beautifully designed and they're so expensive, but they have almost no original art. And so I think that's also something where you kind of go, so of all the people that are in the world who actually have art, who are interested in art, who trust their judgment, who, want abstract, it's not that big.
You're right. That is such a good point. We should all artists just, we have to band together and focus on the importance of original art in your home. Exactly. Any original art,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Feeds the soul.
Exactly. Art is life, as they say.
That's right. Yeah. Well, it's a pretty good profession, I have to say. It's a pretty good job to have to do every day.
Exactly.
So I think we're just about ready to kind of clear up unless there's anything else you want to talk about or share.
No, that's
So I
so,
always
yeah, thank
I
you.
always love to end my interviews with, if time, money, everything was no option, what would your big hairy ass goal be?
Oh my God. I guess I would love to have a show, like either be, I don't know, be in like Art Basel, Miami or New York or Paris, somewhere really, really impressive for an artist. Something that big hairy goal. Just show something
Yeah,
like that.
that's a pretty good hairy ass goal. Yeah. Put that into your art strategy.
10 years, maybe it's a 10-year goal.
Could be. Yeah. Well, the thing is, I always think if you never think about the goal, then for sure it's not going to happen. So once it's kind of in your brain, there's a little part of it that kind of percolates. Sometimes there's opportunities that come up that you kind of go, I think that could take me closer to my goal.
It's a good idea.
Or maybe I'm just a ridiculous optimist.
I am the eternal optimist, so I'm right there.
Perfect. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me. I really enjoyed chatting, and thank you for it, especially because it's so last minute, but it's been really fabulous. And I guess I will see you next at, well, potentially a Leslie Grove gallery opening, if we can have one for the 1+1 show, I guess. Maybe.
I don't know. They weren't planning it, so we'll have to talk about it.
Okay. Well, we'll see. Well, I guess, yeah, we don't have a lot of control over that anyway, so we'll see what
Right.
happens.
Well,
So,
thank you so
anyway,
much.
thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Cool. Happy painting.
You too. Bye.
Thanks a lot. And just as a reminder too, we'll be here next week. I'm not sure. I don't remember who my guest is next week, so I'm sorry for that. But to keep an eye on the information for the Pirate Squared show, if you follow my Instagram, Art Alchemy East, or there's a ton of the artists now that are starting to post their works in progress, which is pretty exciting. And if you happen to head up to Alton Mills, then please go and check out Noodle Gallery and the Mirror Image Sister Plus Sister show. Have a fabulous day, and we will see you next week.